Hello, chemists. Thanks for joining me in this syllabus overview video where I will go over in more detail the slides I have prepared that go over the course logistics and all the different components. I'll spend a little bit of time on our first day of class going over this, but in video form, I can go into much more detail and take as long as I want. All right, so a little bit about me. Here's my dream board, I guess. So my name is Dr. Lisa Wynn. I actually got my PhD here at OSU a couple of years ago. My last name Wynn, it's pronounced Win, like we will win the championship game. Feel free to call me Dr. N or Dr. Wynn. So kind of explaining my dream board here. So I was actually named after Lisa Simpson. So that kind of shows my age there. I love to cook. Here was a great cheeseburger pizza that I made. It was like the best thing I ever made. I mentioned previously in my Meet Your Instructor video that I live here on a little farm or my homestead. And so we have a lot of different animals here. So here are some of my chickens. Here are their names. My husband he didn't want to name them, but as soon as we got them, they got names. All right. And then my two cats here, and then my husband there. And my favorite places on earth are my home, my homestead. I love Costco, and I love Disney World. So that's me and my husband at Disney, at Animal Kingdom. All right, so enough about me. Let's talk about this class. All right, so this class has three different components, main components. A lot of them are in person, and some of these components, tangentially related, kind of occur more online. So first we have lecture. That's where you will interact with me. So we'll have about 3 hours of lecture a week where we will go over materials and do practice problems, things like that. So that's with me. You'll also have a weekly lab. Follow the lab schedule. Some weeks there aren't labs, so keep that in mind. That is with a teaching assistant. So these students are students who are experts at chemistry as well. I can't be in a million places at once. If I could, I would teach everything, lab, lecture, and recitation, but I can't. I'm just one mere mortal. And so you'll have a teaching assistant helping you with lab. So that person should be the first point of contact when you have questions about lab, either them or the lab supervisor. Also, we have a weekly recitation, which is also led by another teaching assistant. I prepare the materials for recitation, but the teaching assistant delivers the material to help guide you through the material the best way based upon the demographics of that class. So those are the three main components, but we also have some other parts of this class. So there's about weekly online homework assignments through Mastering Chemistry. I'll mention this a little bit later, but 99% chance you've already purchased it. The online homework comes with the digital textbook fee that you probably paid, and it also comes with a digital version of the textbook, and I'll show you the details there. It's called Mastering Chemistry, and you get to it through our Carmen page. So on that bit, our Carmen course page has lots of different resources and answers to any questions that you have. The first week or two of classes, I get swamped with emails. So sorry if I sound short. If you send me an email and I know that the answer lives on Carmen, I will just tell you exactly where to find that answer on Carmen. So I'm trying to help you find those answers yourself. All right. So here are some settings, some tips to make sure that when you're doing online homework, like via your iPad, that the settings are correct. All right. The appropriate settings, but it is best to work all online homework through a computer browser, and you'll see this throughout the term where we have, a dozen homework assignments for you to test that out, figure that out. Also, I guess I should have mentioned, a lot of you are freshmen and may have not experienced these different course components, lecture, lab, and recitation. What recitation is so here's like the Webster Dictionary definition of it, but really what it is, it's a smaller group of students. It's typically your lab group, where you can work on an activity in a smaller group in a more intimate environment with a expert, your teaching assistant right there to help guide you, because you'll see how the atmosphere of lecture when there's 300 students versus a smaller group of 25, you can get a lot more learning done in that smaller, more intimate environment. So, what should you expect weekly from this course? So, this is the information for my 6:30 class. I will mention that I am teaching two different sections of 1210 this term, a 410 section and a 6:30 section. So, please, if you email me, just take the half second and just tell me which class you are in. It will help me immensely in helping you. And do know that there's like over 200 students in each of those sections. All right. So anyway, so this is the information for the 6:30 class. So we have two 80-minute lectures with me weekly. So that's Monday and Wednesday. So basically, you will be doing chemistry 4 days a week, just, without Friday. With recitation and lab, basically the off Tuesday and Thursday days, you'll have either recitation or lab. Make sure that you're referring to the schedule for each of those components, so you're preparing for the right lab. Also, in addition to these three different components, we will have three midterm exams, and these will occur outside of class time. Basically, it's to give especially the 6:30 class, more time for instructional time during class. We used to hold midterm exams during class for you folks, but we lost so much instructional time that it was kind of detrimental to the score averages. So exam averages. So we've changed it to out of class time just to give you guys more instructional time so you're better prepared for the midterm exams. And I'll show that on the next slide. We also have one final exam during finals week. So do make sure you're referring to the syllabus for the different meeting times or the different labs to prepare for when it comes to recitation and lab. So here is the lecture schedule for my 6:30 class. We cover 12 chapters. All right, so that all of 1210, we all cover the same chapters. Here is a kind of lecture schedule of what I think we will cover each of the days. This is subject to change, and it's in my right and my power to adjust homework dates based upon what we cover in class. This is just what I think will happen. So again, we meet for lecture Monday and Wednesday. Our midterms for you guys for the 6:30 class only, your midterms are on Friday. All right, so your midterms occur on Friday, so that gives us 3 extra instructional days to help help you prepare for those exams. This is actually something that's new. So if you have other friends in 1210 and they say, "Oh, the midterm is on Wednesday." That's true for them. Their midterm is on Wednesday evenings, but for you guys, your 6:30 class, you guys are special and you get to have your midterms on Friday. The reasoning is because the time at which the other like dozen 1210 sections, their midterm exams actually occur during our class time. And since it occurs during our class time, we would be losing 3 whole class days, and that's really significant for this class in particular because we don't meet that often, not as often as some of the shorter classes. All right, so your midterms occur on Friday, according to the midterm exam schedule right here. So it's on Friday evenings. And so if you do have a conflict, it is possible to come up with an alternative exam time that will not require a penalty or anything. So do keep in mind here that these midterms have specific textbook coverages. So for midterm 1, it's going to cover chapters 1 through 3. I will 100 make sure that we cover chapters 1 through 3 so you are prepared for midterm 1 again. So this lecture schedule will shift a little bit depending on our pacing. Oh, and I didn't mention here, if you have SLDS accommodations for exams, follow the instructions on Carmen to schedule your own exam through SLDS. If you have more questions, let me know. There's a whole page explaining how that works. Next, so that's lecture schedule and exams, how that kind of fits within the course content. So one of the other components of this course is recitation. So I do create an activity for the recitations where you can work with your classmates and your TA to dive really into the content and do practice problems in that space. So recitation is attendance based. There are 12 graded recitation activities, and everyone gets 2 excused absences from these. So that means you need to attend a minimum of 10 recitations to get 100% in that recitation grading category, which is worth 8% of your overall grade. Overall grade. Right. So how this works out according to the schedule, all right, you see that, if you are a Tuesday recitation, there's a bunch of ungraded recitations. That just means that there's no attendance points that comes from there. But if you're Thursday, all of those Thursday meetings are, you would get points if you attended those. So how this works is like if you have recitation on Thursday, all right, recitation 1 is graded. When you go into the classroom space, which is the 55-minute short class time when you signed up for lecture and your lab component. The lab component, when you scheduled for that section, there's actually 2 classes listed. You go to both. One of them is your actual lab. That's the 3-hour course in Celeste Lab. And then the shorter 55-minute course is your recitation. And so both of those do meet weekly according to the schedule. So if you're a Thursday recitation, you go to your class on Thursday. What will happen is your teaching assistant will tell you a password to a attendance survey, an attendance quiz, where you just put in the password, you fill out the survey, and you get your 10 points for the day. So that attendance quiz is just a way to mark your attendance. It's not a quiz. So I'll put a practice one up on our Carmen course so you can see what it looks like, that you just put in the password for the week and it will give you your points. The only way to get your attendance points for the week is to attend in person. There's no remote, hybrid, or makeup alternatives for recitation. If you have accommodations, that is a discussion that we can have to maybe perhaps come up with an alternative. But for the majority of you folks, that just going to in-person recitation 10 times this term will give you 100% in recitation. So yeah, attending that recitation, filling it out will give you also instant access to the key to the activity for that week. So that's another reason to incentivize you to go to recitation, because I don't post the activity key until everyone's done, so about a week later. All right, so do keep that in mind. All right, so go to 10 recitations by the end of the year. That's what you need. And make sure that you mark your attendance each time. All right, so here is the lab schedule, but I'm going to be honest with you, I am not involved in lab at all. I would just put it here for you to look at. So for our class, we are looking at the Tuesday or Thursday schedule based upon when you meet in lab. I'm not involved in lab. Lab changes a little bit every year, and I'm actually afraid to say anything because what I say might be different this year. So if you have questions about lab, please direct them to either your TA or lab supervisor. If you contact me about lab, I will probably just refer you to them. All right. So the grading scheme for this class. So here you see the different category weightings of each of the different categories of this class. We have online homework, our 3 midterm exams, our final exam, recitation, and laboratory. So you see our 3 midterms are all equally weighted within there. Online homework is 10% of your grade. The final exam, 20% of your grade. So it is weighted a little bit heavier than those midterm exams. Recitation, which is attendance based, is 8% of your grade. And then laboratory is 20% of your grade. Do note that in order to pass the entire course, you must earn a 50% in lab or better to pass. This usually isn't an issue if you do decently well in the other categories. Most students do get a 50% in lab. This is an issue when students skip lab or they don't attend, so they're just getting zeros in the grade book. So as long as you go to all of those labs and do decently well on those post-lab assessments, then you should have no worry getting 50% in lab. All right, so the big questions in this class, and this is a change from previous semesters. So if you've talked to, other 1210 Gen Chem students about, the curve in the class, there is no curve. Right? There's no curve in this class. So this is a little bit different this year. Exam grades are not curved. The raw points that you earn in this class goes towards calculating your final letter grade. Nothing is curved. The grade you earn is based upon the raw points that you earn and the weighted averages of these different categories. So The second question is, well, is the final grade curved? So, like, do I need to get a 90% to get an A minus? So there is sort of a curve at the end of the term, but it's different here because the term curve makes it sound like, you don't know what you need to get an A or an A minus. No, we actually use an absolute grading scale that is just different than the typical, 93% is an a grading scale that we think of. We just use a different grading scale, so it's like a built-in curve. You only need a 92% to get an A in this class. I think you need a 88% to get an A minus. So using that absolute grading scale, you know exactly how many points you need to earn in this course to get the letter grade you want from day one. So there's a lot of transparency there. So when people ask, is this class curved? Kind of. But we use an absolute grading scale that is just different. It's just a little bit easier to get the letter grade that you want. So do refer to the syllabus, and then I have a page called Projecting Your Final Letter Grade that will help you do the weighted average here based upon the scores that you see in Carmen. I will point out that the grade, the overall percentage grade you see in Carmen oftentimes is overinflated because it's neglecting the weights of exams, which students typically don't do as well on exams. So, if you see an 80% in the grade book for midterm one, after we take midterm one, if you continue on the same path of those of scoring the same amount on midterms, you'll actually see your grade go down as we go towards the end of the year. And I explain that in my Projecting Your Final Letter Grade page, and I have an Excel sheet to help you calculate it. All right. Okay, so we talked about exams that they occur outside of class time. They are proctored. They will be done on your iPad, either if you've purchased it or are borrowing one from the university. So it's important to note here that we have a very strict calculator policy. These 5 calculators that you see here are the only calculators you are allowed to use. Basically, it's the TI series where there's either a 30, a 83, or an 84 in the name. Those are the only calculators permitted. The TI Nspire is not an approved calculator for the chemistry department, so you need one of these calculators to take on exams. I don't want you to get to the exam and be using an unapproved calculator, and then we will literally have to take it from you if it's not an approved calculator. I mean, you guys are already stressed out about exams, so we don't want that to happen. So I will make sure, and I will follow up with all of you guys to make sure you obtain an appropriate calculator for exams. Casio calculators are also not approved, even if it's not a scientific calculator. Like if it's just kind of like a small, calculator, it's still technically not approved. So these are the only models that are allowed on exams. All right, so there we go. So TI Nspire, no. And the reasoning, and people will say, oh, the math department allows it, oh, the ACTs allows it. Still, no, the department has said no on the TI Nspire, and it's because of the keyboard that's there. All right, so that's the calculator policy. Do keep this slide in mind when you take the syllabus gatekeeper quiz. This slide will be helpful for you to answer some of the questions that are there. All right, so tons of resources for you in this class. There's lots of support in a lot of different ways, so figure out what works best for you. My tip for you and your success in this class is to do a little bit every day. Do a little bit every day, so then you don't have to cram for the exams. So resources for you, me. All right, I have weekly office hours, Monday and Wednesday. If you're in my 410 class, it's directly after class. So you can just follow me to my office, and it's basically the hour I have between my 410 and my 630 class. Or, if you're coming from somewhere else, you can follow the yellow Post-it notes in Evans to find me. I have yellow Post-it notes, so just follow them to find me. If you're in my 630 class, my office hours are directly before class, so you'll have to follow those yellow Post-it notes. I will hold some Zoom office hours too. I just don't know when I'll do them yet. So I'll probably have 2 hours of Zoom sometime. But in addition to my office hours, our teaching assistants also have office hours. So we have a fleet of teaching assistants in the learning resource room in the first floor of Celeste, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 every day. It's drop in. You can go anytime. You don't have to just see your teaching assistant. If you have like a significant figure problem question, you can go in and ask anyone there. They're all experts in chemistry. They also, I think, have some Zoom hours in the evening and on weekends. I'm assuming this is the same from previous terms, so don't quote me on that. But I do believe they will have Zoom hours because I think that was a popular thing, especially for weekends, when you guys are working on lab reports. All right. So tons of office hours, tons of people and support here to help you in your learning. Next, the textbook. The textbook has tons of resources and interactive problems for you to get instant feedback on your assessment and your knowledge of the content. You can find the textbook on Carmen. On Carmen through Mastering Chemistry. So if you go to the place where you do your online homework and click on the word e-text, it will take you to the textbook. So that's a very useful resource for you if you missed lecture and need to catch up on your own. Our Carmen course also, I post tons of resources for you where I post overview sheets that have tons of practice problems, and I give very detailed keys for all of them. There are supplemental lecture videos for you there if you just need, either if you missed class or if you just want to hear a concept again from a different instructor, or you can see my lecture recordings. You'll find those on our Carmen page, and you will find our practice exams that we post there as well. All right, so let's talk about online homework. All right, so this is 10% of your overall grade. I'll point out that there's a very high chance you already purchased it with the digital textbook fee. So when you signed up for this class, I'm assuming you had the option to opt in or out of the textbook fee here. I think you have to do work to opt out of it. So if you do remember opting out of it, then you'll have to purchase access to Mastering Chemistry on your own. But if you kept that within your course fees here, you have access to both the textbook and the full semester access of online homework. So if you did purchase the digital textbook within this course, registering and linking your account to Mastering is stupid easy. All you have to do is click on My Lab and Mastering. You just click on it and it should link to, once you create your Mastering account, it should link automatically to the gradebook. If you have to purchase Mastering Chemistry because you opted out, then you have to follow some information given on our start of term tasks where you have to input an access code in order to link your account. If you have to purchase it separately. All right. And so through Mastering our online homework, you also get access to the e-textbook. So you can interact with the textbook on a web browser, but you can also download the app, the Pearson Plus app, to bring up the textbook. You can even use it offline. You don't have to be online to look through the textbook. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like. All right, so how online homework works for my class is I have big, large chapter homework assignments due about weekly. There's a large chapter set due with each chapter. So chapter 1 will have a homework set, chapter 2 will have a homework set, and each of those sets are due the next Sunday, the following Sunday when we complete the chapter in lecture. So if we finish chapter 1 on Friday, that means that the chapter 1 homework is due 2 days from then. So that's Sunday at midnight. So I like to be very consistent with that. It's always due. Chapter homework assignments are always due after we finish the chapter, the immediate Sunday after that. So I encourage students, due date doesn't mean DO, due date. I really encourage you to complete the easy questions as we move through the chapter. Remember, do a little bit of chemistry every day. And if you do, you can do some of those easier questions on the homework sets and maybe save the harder ones once we completely finish the chapter. So, complete those questions as we move through the chapter because these homework sets are about, 2 to 3 hours long. If you wait till Sunday, I hope that you have enough time to complete it before that due date. There's no penalty at looking at the questions, all right, or even looking at hints. You can click on hints. You don't even have to attempt the question. There's no penalty within there. You can do questions in any order, so you can skip them. As long as it's before, if we're before the due date, you can skip them and do the ones that you can do at that point. But there are penalties for getting questions incorrect. For most cases, there's about 6 attempts for that. And I really, suggest all of you to really fully understand these concepts before answering a question. If you just brute force your way through a homework assignment, two things will happen. You will get a low score. All right. If it takes you, 6 times to, get an answer, if you're just plugging in numbers and not really thinking of, how do I get the answer, you'll get a low score on the homework set, but you're also not learning. So you're going to have to take time to learn those concepts anyway for the exam. So if you take a little bit of extra time on those homework assignments and fully understand those questions and how to get to the answer, you'll save yourself so much more time when it comes to the exam because you don't have to relearn these things. And then finally, I said that the due date for homework assignments is always Sunday at midnight, but I do have a very lenient partial credit for late work. So any individual questions that are completed after the due date get a 10% penalty each day they're late, and the max penalty is 50%, meaning you could wait till the very last day of the semester, do all of the homework, and you could still earn up to 50% of the original points. So this is to incentivize students to just do homework. I'd rather you do homework and get some type of credit for it, because I'm assuming you're learning as you are doing this. All right. So yes, there is partial credit for late work. This is kind of there's no extra credit in this class, no extra credit, and this is a department policy. But also, I like to think of the partial credit for late homework in itself is kind of like extra credit. So if you don't complete all of the questions in a homework set, you can do those last couple hard ones at any time during the semester for a little bit of credit. So, when it comes to the end of the year and you're looking to, get your grade bumped to the next letter grade because you're really close, something that I'll look at is, did you complete all the homework? If you didn't, those unanswered questions are, kind of little sources of extra credit that you could be utilizing. So do know that this penalty only applies to individual questions that aren't answered that are late. So you could do half of the homework assignment on time, before the due date. You'll get the full points for that you've earned, but it's any questions after the due date have that penalty applied. All right, so a little bit more about homework. So here's the grading policy that you can look up when you're doing homework. You can see what the grading policy is. To get to the homework, you click on My Lab in Mastering, or you can just go to www.masteringchemistry.com also and log in that way. So here's an example of what a question looks like. All right, so this is a multiple choice question. All right, so there are links here to different resources for you to help answer those questions. So these things, review will take you to the correct part of the textbook that gives you the answer here. Also, constants in the periodic table that's found at the front and back cover of your textbook. Also, what you see here are available hints. Feel free to look at those to help guide you in the right direction for the answer. So a lot of the questions that I choose for the homework assignments also have feedback. So if you are to get the question wrong, do read the feedback to help you arrive at the correct answer. All right, so that is homework. All right, so also associated with Mastering Chemistry is our e-textbook. So this is the textbook that we use, Chemistry, the Central Science, and this is the 15th edition. So this is a new edition. It's different from previous editions, and this edition is really good because they've added a lot of great resources for you to play around with. So to get to the e-textbook on your web browser, if you're using your computer, is once you're inside Mastering Chemistry, your screen might look like a little different, but right there, Pearson eText will take you to the textbook. And me personally, I think it's really easy to navigate the textbook. the e-textbook. You can also purchase a loose leaf version of the textbook, I think for $60 through Pearson. Also, the library should have copies of the textbook that you can borrow on 2-hour reserve if you like paper versions better. So that's how you get to the textbook. On a web browser, you can also download the Pearson Plus app, log in with your credentials that you linked with Pearson, and you should be able to download the book through that Pearson app. So a little bit about the e-textbook. One of my goals this term is to get more students to utilize the textbook. So I have gone in and shared notes inside the textbook already. So as you read through it, you'll see shared notes by me for things that I think are important, where I expand on concepts, or maybe I give you hints on ways to, memorize or apply these concepts that we're learning about. So do look at those notes inside the e-text. You can also write your own notes. They're not shared with anybody. And the notes that you write do they do come up whether you're looking at the browser version or the app version of the textbook. So I think that's pretty nifty. Each chapter or each section as you read through the textbook has sample exercises with the answers there, so you can assess yourself as you're reading through the different sections. And at the end of each chapter, there's multitude of resources. I like the section summaries. I think at a minimum before coming to class, whatever chapter we're on, take the 5 minutes and read through the section summary so you know what we're going to be talking about that day. There's key equations within there to help you kind of put together the math and conceptual math things that we'll be utilizing in that chapter. And this is something new, exam prep questions. So these are exam-like questions for each of the chapters. And Dr. Foose has, who's another lecturer here, has a video answer for each and every one of those exam prep questions. So these questions are kind of like the end of chapter exercises, but more exam focused, because those end of chapter exercises, they're like open response, but on exams we can't do that. Our exams are basically multiple choice, so it's harder to do that. And I actually wanted to show the textbook right here. Okay, so this is what the textbook looks like. All right, so this is through the Pearson app, so you can see each of the different sections here are organized, and at the end of each section there are self-assessment questions right here. All right, self-assessment exercises for you to kind of assess yourself as you're going through, and the answer is right there. All right, so that's kind of nifty. So each of those sections have that. So here's dimensional analysis, my favorite. Oh, why do you look like that? No, don't do that. Okay. Yeah, okay, so here is another sample exercises. There should also be some self-assessment questions here. Yeah, and the answers are right there to help you get to that. What I wanted to show you are chapter summary and key terms. All right, so this is just kind of like a little glimpse into each of the different topics within that chapter, and I believe they have the definitions of a lot of the key terms that are there. All right, so kind of reading through at a minimum these chapter summaries is like watching a trailer of a movie before you actually go see the movie. So that can be a valuable tool, so you can get the most out of lecture when we're using these concepts and terms frequently. And then I also wanted to show you the exam prep questions, because I think these are valuable, because again, they are worded like how our exams are worded. So here is an example of an exam prep question where it's multiple choice, and you can check your answer within there. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, so Foose has some video solutions of some of these questions. All right, so that can be helpful for you to study. I suggest folks, just as you're going through these chapters, don't save these exam prep questions for studying for the exam. Me and the department, we will post plenty of practice exams for you when we get closer to the midterm exams. These types of questions can be used ongoing throughout the semester, so you can, assess yourself and assess yourself frequently. So I suggest, after the chapter's done, after you do your homework for the chapter, do these exam prep questions to help assess yourself. All right, so that's the textbook. All right, lab access. So the textbook online homework is through Mastering Chemistry. On lab access is different. I believe it's called Achieve now, and together with Smart Worksheets. I don't know anything about this. There is a page on the lab module that will guide you on how to register for Achieve and Smart Worksheets. Please do this before your first lab. So related to that, tasks for lab, get your access to Achieve and Smart Worksheets. This is different than mastering. So you have to actually do something. I think you have to purchase something. Also purchase a lab coat from Celeste 180. It's in the first floor of Celeste, the same building as your labs. Your labs are on like the second and third floor. The chem store is on the first floor. So you can use a credit card or your Buck ID. So do purchase a lab coat. These are their hours of operations. It might change a little. They might extend it a little bit for the first week of classes. Do purchase a lab coat from them. I believe there are sizes for you to try out as well. And do make sure before your first lab you wear appropriate attire for lab. So wear long pants. Do not wear synthetic leggings because the synthetic fabric does not protect you against, some of the caustic, corrosive materials that we'll be using. So jeans are the best in terms of protecting. Closed-toed shoes, and make sure your ankles are not showing. So like no cropped pants. We need long pants. Basically, the rule of thumb is all skin below the belt should not show at all. I don't want you to go to lab. We are very stringent about this. So I don't want you to go to lab and get turned away because you're not wearing appropriate attire. And then finally here, you will get goggles, and they will be provided to you on the first day of lab, but then that's for you to keep and bring to you every week for lab. So do make sure, and your lab TA should be telling you more information through emails. This is just kind of what I've gathered so far. All right, so how to reach me? You can either, come to my office hours, drop in. You don't have to make an appointment. That time is your time. So you can come to my office hours. Remember, it's the time between my 4:30 and 6:30 class. Also, you can email me anytime. Please only email me directly at osu.edu. You will get the fastest response if you email me directly at this email address. Please include the class also if it's important. If I have to do something on Carmen, I need to know what class you're in. It'll help me versus sifting through, looking at both to figure out where you are. Do not use Carmen messaging, okay, please, because it's harder for me to include pictures or links if it's through a Carmen message. Please just email me directly and only from your OSU email address, no Gmail accounts or whatever. Only here. And also do not email me at my buckeyemail.edu or .osu.edu email address. I know that if you type in my name.number, sometimes this email does come up, but do not email that email address because it's actually a separate inbox that I never check. So if you email this, I think I have an auto reply that says don't email me at this email address. All right, so if you email me here, I will not respond. Only email me at this address. All right. So that's how you reach me. But remember, your recitation and lab TA can also answer questions, or you can ask, general concept questions to TAs at the Learning Resource Center. All right. So a little bit about our class style. I post PowerPoints for each of the chapters, organized by chapter. You will find these under pages under our lecture module. So here's an example for chapter 5. All of the chapter 5 material will show up on this page. So this page has all of the resources pertaining to chapter 5. So the lecture slides that I hope that you download or print beforehand, a link to online homework for fun, and then some other resources for you to get the most out of your learning. So I have overview sheets with practice problems and worked out keys for you. Any other information that I think is important. The department posts reading guides for each of the chapters to help you kind of navigate the textbook. And then finally, the supplemental videos by Dr. Foos. So he's already published these, and I'll make them available to everybody. If you need extra help with concepts for the different chapters. Also on this page for each of the chapters, this is where I will post lecture recordings. They will post about 2 days after lecture because I have to edit them and then upload them and then put them on this page. So you will find these here, and it's organized by chapter. So I can show you what that looks like, maybe. maybe I can show you what it looks like. I'll show you what it looks like for my summer class because they're already done. Come on. Come on. Man, this video is long. All right, so here is my summer course for 1210. So this is what our module will look like. So here are our lecture resources. So all of the chapters are just listed here. So if you want, chapter 4 stuff, you just go here, right? Chapter 4, where you'll see the lecture slides, a link to the online homework, and then here's the supplemental information I was talking about. And down further are all the lecture videos that I recorded, the live lectures that I recorded through the podium. So these supplemental supplemental resources here. So here, the overview and practice sheets that I post goes over the learning objectives for that chapter. These are the same learning objectives that are in the textbook, but what's useful here are just, general questions that pertain to that particular chapter. So I have all of those there, but what's very nifty is that I have a worked out key as well, where I try to explain more what concepts are important here to help navigate. So like here, I write in the corner the strategy of how I got these answers. So that can be a little bit more helpful than just, the key, the answer. Usually I try to give you a little bit of hints to help you get to those answers there. All right, so those are more practice problems for you. All right, so that is how our lectures are organized. All right, the midterms, there's 3 of them, the 3 midterm exams and 1 final exam. All of our exams within 1210, all sections take the same exam. All of us instructors, we write the questions pertaining to the exam. So we all have a little bit of input into the exam. I'm not the only one writing the exam. It's all of the instructors. These midterms will happen outside of class time. I already mentioned that. And we administer them through a Carmen quiz. So we are limited by that functionality, meaning that these are not open response quiz exams, that basically it's going to be like multiple choice, pull down menu, some numerical response questions. It's a Carmen quiz. We can't have you write out work, all right, for a Carmen quiz. And all of these exams will happen under Lockdown Browser, and there's more information to come about Respondus Lockdown Browser. You will be given a supplemental information packet with the periodic table and useful equations for you. You will be given this at the exam, but we'll give you a copy of exactly what to expect in that packet before the exam, so you know what you have to memorize and what you won't. I will post practice exams. The department also posts practice exams. All exams are the same throughout the sections. And then finally, I hold a 2-hour review session for each exam over Zoom. So do expect that. And then finally, our final exam is cumulative over all 12 chapters. All right, so laboratory. Remember, I'm not involved in lab. If you have questions about lab, please talk to your lab supervisor or your lab TA. All right, I can help with content questions. Like if you're stuck on stoichiometry, I can help you do the stoichiometry, but how it relates to lab can't really help there because lab changes a little bit every year, and it would be so hard for me to keep up with all of those details. I have lecture enough to worry about, so I will probably just refer you to the lab supervisor. And then finally, a note about absence, extended absences or sickness due to quarantine. So this course is completely in person, and it has in-person expectations. I do not do Zoom lecture. I phased that out because I want to focus on the folks in the room. But I do record my lectures and I post them periodically. But don't depend on these because technical issues happen. For like a week, I forgot to turn on my mic. All right, so for a week over my summer courses, there was no audio. It was just my screen. So technical issues happen, and I don't realize that until after the fact. I care about the students in the room. So if you are to miss lecture for sickness or quarantine, it's up to you to really get caught up. Use the textbook, supplemental resources, those things. Talk to me to fill in any gaps later. We have a lenient to absence policy for recitation, and the lab also has a makeup policy as well for sickness as well. But skipping or missing, 2 or more of those components of the course will add up, and there will be penalties applied to those. But when it comes to lecture, I don't take attendance, but really it's up to you to get caught up. I'm not going to slow down for you. We're all adults. I don't care if you skip. I mean, I care, but you don't have to tell me that you are sick and you have to skip lecture. Just know that it's up to you and all the abundant resources we have to get caught up. All right, so this video is long enough. All right, so hopefully that clarifies everything that we will cover in this class. So hope we have a good year, chemists.